Good afternoon, good evening. How you doing? Well, as you can see, I've got the Philips, or also known as the Norelco radio chassis, out on the bench. I started working on the speaker terminal last night, and I used some epoxy on it, and you can see it right here. I epoxied it down, as I said I was going to do, onto the output transformer. I cut the wires short. This is solid wire. This solid wire was running right up to the speakers. And I put them under the screws here, just about fit. I could have cut them a little longer. And I want to put some spade connectors on the other end over here, and put them on the ends of the wires going to the speaker. Now, they use solid wire, and I think I know why they use that, because they probably didn't want to have wires flopping around and getting into the dial cord, which is right here. So we're going to have to go with that, and let me take you over to the radio here and show you. As you can see, the wires right here are solid wire, and I'm going to leave it solid. I'm going to solder on a little spade connector. I got to go digging through my box of connectors, and the color codes will match. And that'll be done when I'm ready to put the radio back in the cabinet. What you see here is the FM antenna wire, which is inside the cabinet here and goes around the top and down over here. The I-tube I removed. It slides out. You just loosen the two screws on that metal bracket there, and I took the I-tube and wire assembly out. And here it is right here. It's a 470,000 ohm resistor here. That's what they use. It's marked that way. And it tests 485,000, so I'm leaving it. The tube was quite dirty, but I think it may be weak. I don't know. It's the only tube in the radio I have not replaced. Now, this is hardwired, as you can see, over here into the chassis. And the next thing I want to do here is put this fuse in. I'm tempted to epoxy it or hot glue. I don't know if hot glue is going to hold that. On top here, this is supposed to be some kind of a thermo fuse, and it will open up after the transformer is cooking, so I'm not going to use that. I verified that this is directly connected to one side of the power cord. So I can lift this here, unsolder it from here, and put the fuse in series with that over here. I had thought of maybe putting it there, or as I was originally going to do, is put it down there. Drill a hole too. But it would be kind of difficult, and I'll show you. This radio chassis is real heavy, mostly because there's power transformer, and yeah, I have to handle this very carefully. In addition to that, this dial cord appears to be metal. Not all of it, but this part. The main dial, you can see the pointer moving here when I gently touch it, is metal. This here is not metal, but this part is. So let me turn this around here and show you. Okay, the radio chassis was not very hard to get out at all, but the very tricky part is not to damage the dial cord. there's another audio output transformer here. This is your 6BQ5 here. This is your 2 rectifier tubes. So there is a clearance in here about the thickness of the shank of this screwdriver between this top plate here and the transformer, and it's mounted with 2 screws and let me get you in there. You might be able to see that, I don't know. There's no way I can get back here and take this out. I can take this screw out, but I can't take this one out. To get the transformer out so I can drill down through. So carefully I can drill down in here in the center and put a self-tapping screw in there and mount the fuse holder. But I really don't like that look. Now, it's hazardous anyways because this is all open, you know, when you can get a shock off of it. Although I did test between here and the chassis, and as I recall, I think it's like 30 volts or so. There isn't all that much. So, you know, you may feel a tingle if you were to touch that like that. But I don't really feel like having the fuse here. I can turn it on an angle. See, what I'd simply do is to cut this wire. You can see this wire here. It goes down over here into this harness and it goes to the power switch. And the power switch switches both the neutral and the hot side at the same time. So I'm undecided whether I want to put it here or hot glue it or epoxy it up here. Now, I bought 2 of these for $2 at the Dollar General store, I don't know, 2 months ago maybe. It's self-mixing, but what it does not tell you is single use, because everything hardens up. There's a spring inside this white shaft here that pushes, that snaps onto the front of this after you break that tab off. So it's self-mixing all right, but it doesn't tell you it's a single use. In other words, you can't cap it off. They don't provide a cap to put on the end of that. And once the stuff is mixed inside here, because there's a wire spring inside here, and what happens is, as the stuff is pushed through, it circulates around in the spring and comes out the end like a syringe, which is a good idea, but once it mixes with the 2 parts here, it's going to harden up, and sure enough it did. So last night I put this on and I left the thing on the bench. I ran back out in the shop about 10 or 15 minutes later and it says, wait a minute, I only used a little bit of this. Let me try to glue this down. Well, it was all hardened up, so I couldn't reuse it. So this is a single use. This here is a single use. It does not say that anywhere in the package. So it's only good for one, and what little I used in here was pretty wasteful because there's like 95% of the content is still left here. So this is another one that I did not open. So I think I could try hot gluing this, although as I said, I don't care too much. I don't know how strong hot glue would be. Or I could open this and epoxy this on there. But I don't know whether I want to put it right on top of this and just make my connections here. This is not a very good place here. Mount it here or here. So that's what I'm going to be deciding on that for tonight. Meanwhile, this is a very awkward heavy chassis. It does not want to stay any certain place. It could fall right over backwards and snap things off. This is a 6 BQ5 audio output tube. There's 2 of them in here. This obviously is the coupling capacitor. These are, I was told, these are ordinary wax capacitors dipped in tar. It's a hard tar, and it doesn't really come off too much. In other words, it's not like a roofing tar. It's a lot harder. See, I can't get it to go under my fingernail. But this area here, I want to check these resistors out and make sure they're all right. And there is what looks like a capacitor here also. Our schematic is mostly the pictorial is very hard to make out. But anyways, you can see where I want to put the fuse. This audio output transformer is in the way. There are 2 of them. There's one here, and then the one over here where I got the terminal strip mounted on. So there are 2 output transformers. One's probably for the woofer and the other one's for the mid-range. And that's the way it seems to be. It's bi-amped. In other words, low frequency and high frequency individual amplifiers. So while this is up on end, off camera I'm going to examine this and try to find what pin this goes to. It's really tight in there for me to see, but I can't do it on camera. So I'm going to put you on, well, I'm going to just turn you off for now, and I'll put you back on when I establish what this is. And I probably have to pull out the schematic. So hang on. I know you can't probably see that, but it don't seem to be any coupling capacitors in this. I think this is direct coupled. I traced it out, and there are 2 capacitors under there, the black one in the middle, and then there's a black one on the right over there. And one of them goes to the chassis, so it's not a coupling capacitor, and it goes to pin 7. But then there's, I know you can't see this. Let me see if I can get your magnification. The 6 BQ5 C81, as close as I can read it off of pin 7, goes to the plate of the 6 BQ5. I hope you can see that. Let me see if I can get it in here with this one. And it appears to be shielded. And shielded here, you can see the little ground symbol off to the right there. I hope you can see that. And it continues down into Never Never Land. I don't know. So I think this thing is, I think this is direct coupled. I don't see any coupling capacitors here. With my eyesight, I see that's 6 BQ5, that's 6 BQ5. I'm not even sure which one I'm looking at here, because there's a speaker here, but it doesn't tell you what's the woofer and what's the tweeter or the mid-range. So I don't see anything. I see direct couple. So that's what I see. The way this thing is, and I went through this before, this is a very, very, very hard radio to work on. It is working good. I think we're going to leave it alone. We're not going to worry about recapping it. It's working good. The electrolytic is running ice cold. The last time I tested it, it drew about 700 milliamperes at 118 volts. So I think what we're going to do in here is we're going to mount a fuse here, and I'll have to unsolder that wire. This terminal is riveted down to the top of the housing of the power transformer. So I could probably glue the fuse right on top of that with hot glue or something. It's not going to hurt anything. Disconnect this and put the fuse holder in series with that. Now I could, well, it's a little bit rounded. I could mount it that way. I don't know. I just don't like the looks of that. You know, I know this is exposed. That's the way they designed it. And if I put it down here, it's going to be exposed. Naturally, you pull the power cord before you change the fuse. I don't even think I got any 1 amp fuses, and that's what I was going to use in here. I don't have a lot of fuses because I had a lot of them when I had my other shop. I mean, I got a bunch of fuses, but a lot of them are like 10 and 20 and 30 amps, you know, of the AGC type. So, I don't know. I could mount it that way. Decisions, decisions, decisions. There's not a lot of room on this chassis to mount anything, as you can see. You certainly don't want to mount it down there. You got a dial cord here. See that? And that is when you're in FM. Watch when I push the FM now. There's going to be a switch here that goes over. Watch. See it? It's on FM. Alright. And then if I release it, alright, that's the only time that moves. All the other positions don't move, and this is the off here. So when you turn it off, here I go. I almost broke that damn dial cord. That's the power switch right here. Let's see if I can get you a look at that. I don't like turning this thing upside down too much. I really need one of them chassis things, but I'm not going to go out and build something like that just for this one radio. This thing is 22 inches long. And I don't have any threaded rod 22 inches long. Now here's the power switch. You can see one of those wires, the one in the middle, there's a gray and then there's a black. That black is that thin wire that goes up to the transformer on the top of the power transformer. This is a, this switches both the neutral and the hot side at the same time, and it's done through a mechanical arrangement with the push buttons. And I'm going to have to put the flashlight down so I can show you. Alright, see that? Hey. Okay, so all these switches here I had cleaned with deoxid when it was in the cabinet, but I'll probably hit them again now that I got the thing wide open here. But this is an extremely difficult chassis to work on. These caps are not marked. There's some numbers on them, but they can't decide what they are. And the one right there is buried way in the back, and the brownish looking one, they're all black tar wax capacitors. This has got a brown paper on it with a black mark on it, as you may be able to see. It's extremely hard to trace out. The radio's working good. I'm not going to bother recapping it. I think the tar probably protected it anyways. But I honestly think the output tubes are direct coupled, which means that if there are any resistors that are off, you could have problems. So I'll be doing that. I'll be checking the resistors, but there's no way, like I can change this cap right here where my flashlight's touching. That's not a problem. I won't be able to get that one that can't reach in the back there. I won't attempt something I can't get at. I just won't do it. This I can get, but I wasn't able to find it on the schematic. Most of these I could not find on the schematic. It's extremely difficult. It's not an easy radio to work on. I was told that by others. But this is not a coupling capacitor. From what I can see, it appears to go to a terminal where my flashlight's pointing right here on a ground. So that's not a coupling. I think it's a bypass. And I think this one is too up here. And it's the only ones that are in here. So I think what I'm going to probably do, try to clean it up a little bit. That's a very low voltage on that capacitor. I think that's a 0.5, but it's got extremely low voltage on it, and that's the way it was. I did not solder. That looks like my kind of work, but no, that was soldered like that. That's the way it was. I didn't do anything like that. The last time I opened this up, I had checked these. As I recall, I think they were okay, those resistors. The capacitor, I think I checked for ESR. It's not showing leakage, physical leakage. So I think what we want to do, and I'll do that off camera, is to mount the fuse and find out where I want to put the fuse. Let's see here. I might be able to get that transformer loose. After all, I can get my screwdriver in there. There's a screw down at the bottom right-hand corner. There's none on the top right, one on the top left, and none on the bottom left. So there's only 2 screws holding this audio output transformer in here. So but there's so much tar on them, and like I say, it's a tar that appears to be a plastic more than tar. Very little comes off my fingernails. Alright, so yeah, we got a lot of dial cords on this radio. You've got the tone here. See? And there's a wheel here that turns. So you got a dial cord for this. Then you've got a dial cord for this. Then you got the main tuning dial, which you could probably see down there. So there's 3 dial cords in here, not counting the one for the FM that pushes over that switch that I showed you earlier. So there's actually 4 cords in here and 5 counting this guy. See what that does. Yep, that's part of it too. See that? That's tight right there. So that's part of the FM also. Alright, that stays slack. And it doesn't move. It is only for the FM. As I said, these are the ground wires that go under the screws for the foil on that press board bottom that goes over this. So the eye is can't read that. Not without magnification, I can't. EM80. Okay. Which there is, Sal's does not Sal's, Bob Dubush does not sell the EM80, but the replacement, which I do have written down, he has. I think it's about $15 or so, but I'm not going to buy that right now. I could fire this up, but it's not recommended, even with the volume down, to run a radio without the speakers connected. So I wanted to see how bright this is and find out if I have to change it. It was pretty dirty, so maybe that helped. If not, I'll have to get another one. It does light, but very, very faintly. I think that's it for this video.